Thanks, Kris, and thanks, Heavy Mag. So my name's Richie. We play in Wilderness. Wilderness has been around since, 2009 really, but pumping out albums and gigs since 2012. For the purposes of this new album, I track the drums and the bass, as well as some rhythm guitars and a bit of lead, and I do the clean singing. We can recap on why I do all that shit after. Damo, throw to you.
I am the all-knowing Cosmos. You people at home won't be able to see I have the galaxies in my background. I'm Damo. I play guitar, vocals, a bit of art direction, I guess you could say.
Creative director.
Creative director of the unit. Wilderness. Yeah, in Wilderness we are called. It's spelt in a old-fashioned way.
Yeah, we can go into all that if anyone really wants to go into the academia of it, but yeah.
I'm glad you guys said this name first, because I've been looking at it thinking, how the fuck do I pronounce it? But that's why I got you guys to introduce yourselves, so I didn't get it wrong.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that's very tricky, very tasty move. We've got the 2 albums ago, we put out a T-shirt, and the back of the T-shirt is just a list of misspellings that we've had at all the gigs we play. So it's just it's fucking hilarious. The best one we had is someone called us the Wilder Ones.
Wilder One, yeah. Well, I can sort of, I suppose I just sort of.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see it.
Simple lexic sort of inversion of 2 letters, it becomes that anyway. So yeah. I can sympathise with the
absolutely there. And when we were in for, we made a decision. We were sitting in the misty colds of Ballarat, which is where Damo's still sitting, and like the fog rolled around us, and we thought, well, we want to have a strong black metal influence, but not do a black metal album. What do we do? And so we knew what we were getting into. You start using that sort of old sort of Anglo-Saxon Germanic stuff. It's like, well, it's classic heavy metal, but of course no one wants to say it out loud, you know.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. We're here to speak about Wilderness's 4th full-length album, On the Earth Under the Sky, which will be released on April 30. So that's not far away, guys. How you feeling?
Yeah, it pumped. Yeah, look, we've sat on it for ages. It's the golden egg, and it's just about to hatch. I was 2 or 3 years of hard, I wouldn't say challenges that we faced while recording it, or pre-production, and then things going wrong and all that stuff, and learning how to do it off the cuff and getting advice from people who know what they're doing, to getting it to a semi-finals product, and then having people listen to it and going, no, it needs this, and we're like, what? And then we're like, oh, you're right. So I think it's just good timing now, like that we've been able to incubate it for so long.
It was hard for us for sure, like, because like Damo and I are rash, impetuous fools, and sort of like the last couple of albums, as we've learned to do a bit of pre-production and demo stuff ourselves, it's just like, fuck, smack it on the ass, it's done, send it out, Yeah. Whereas with this one, there was just something like I guess the songcraft on this one we paid a lot more attention to. So when other people said, oh, you need to scoop a bit of this out of the bass or do this or blah, 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 we just sat back and listened this time and got over ourselves a little bit, which is sometimes hard to do when you've just been doing it for so long. But I did, for me, and Damo and I have been, as I said earlier, like we've been playing together since probably 96 or something, and we got a string of 7 inches and tapes and this, everything behind us. This for me at 47 years of age is to me the musically the most solid, profound, best sounding everything thing I've been involved with. It's been a real honour to work with Damo through all the years, and particularly bringing this thing to life.
Speaking about musically, guys, tell us a bit about the album from a musical point of view and what you were going for with it.
I think we kind of subconsciously, I don't know, Richard, we'll kind of capture the essence of the first one in some regards, like it was a raw commando type of attempt at stuff, and we always go for capturing the energy of the music and what it means to us, the message in the lyrics, and all songs basically become a snapshot of your life and periods, it's sort of, I don't know, I guess, what would you say, Richard? Would you think that, or am I a completely different tangent?
Spot on. I think there are 3 big albums that Damo and I have worked on for me that really that really clicked. And the first one was kind of the first Downriver album, which we did all on our own with our bass player, Damo's cousin Curbs, Jared Kirby, and he did all the work there. And we wrote like a comedy thing for the inside of that sleeve, thinking that we all thought at like 28 we were burnt out, we'd never play live again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but we made a little joke on the inside of that album cover, and to me, it worked for the first Wilderness album, and it works for this one. We made this little joke about, rock and roll died in 1983 and all this sort of stuff and blah, blah, blah. But it's about kind of like genre dudes never get us. Like if all you do is listen to Doom and it's just a Doom, that's it, and you got a massive Doom tattoo on your back and that's that, you probably go, oh yeah, there's maybe, there's one or two songs, but as a band, you won't get it. Same with black metal, same with thrash, same whatever. But for me, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's like, fuck, man, listen to Mob Rules or Sabotage coming from a Black Sabbath perspective. It's like no two songs sounds the same. They're not in the same keys. There's fast, there's slow, there's light, there's dark. Last time I talked about this, I was talking about Rainbow Rising. You got side A with all these cool blues fucking hard rockers, and then two metal epics on side B, and we've always tried to, and as you say, Damo, subconsciously channel that first album, but then also consciously try and say, well, like we love all these underground stuff, we love indie stuff, and we've got a punk hardcore grind background, but it's like we just want to make the fucking French Kiss heavy metal album. You know what I mean? And you can't do a French Kiss heavy metal album if every song is basically like a genre song. And that's nothing against the bands that do that. And, but yeah, I guess for me, I'd say that they're the two things, that channel that first album and channel this spirit of metal where, you've got a bit of ballad, a bit of shade, a bit of, blah, blah, blah.
Light and shade, variety,
Yeah. Dynamics, exactly.
Dynamic, yeah.
Very cool. And it's a double concept album too, guys. So can you run us through the concept?
Damo, do you mind if I jump in on this one?
Yeah, mate, go for it.
So this, as Damo said before, the thing about, all bands say it, so it's music is personal, and if it's not personal, why are you doing it? It's like art expression, it's creativity. Lyrically, Damo and I started off with this loose idea of this kind of, where do you find connection? This is a long time ago now. It was like 2009. Where do you find connection for people that might be like, I feel a real kindred. I've worked with a whole heap of people from a different variety of backgrounds, etc., etc. Damo and I have largely kind of this sort of Anglo-Saxon, Celtic-y, Irish-y, blah, blah, blah sort of background. How do you tap into that without being cringe is the first thing. How do you say, well, what is my cultural identity when, for a lot of people, it's a struggle to find a cultural identity in a young multicultural, I don't even want to get down that path because it's not young. I'll backpedal on that. On the Earth Under the Sky is kind of like, in one sentence, a wrap-up of my whole PhD that I did. I did like a philosophy PhD, and it's about how do you find connections and what is it to actually be a human in the modern age? How is it that you can appreciate the rich, complex inner lives of others while also perhaps profoundly disagreeing with them at times? You know what I mean? So it's kind of, it's almost a cliche to say there's like German existentialism in it, but there is, and it's not Nietzsche, that's kind of the lazy go-to. So a lot of our stuff, I think, has a depth to it where it's really about us navigating, the day-to-day. How do you get on the day-to-day? Once your eyes are open, I can't remember if it's blue pill, red pill from the Matrix, but once you actually choose to see, the damage that can come from things like capitalism, this, that, everything else. I won't go on a big rant, I promise you. But this kind of the various influences, the various ethical and social and political influences, the particularly young kids today who are bombarded because they can't get away from screens and stuff. How do you exist in that world? So that's a really convoluted way of saying we mix that deep shit with really, I go out of my way to try and say, hey, if Dio had done my PhD, what would be the cheesy shit coming out of his mouth. Or even Tony Martin, man. Like the Tony Martin Sabbath era is a big influence on me and Damo. We wear that like a badge of honor, you know, like, and Tony's the king of cheesy shit lyrics. You know, it's like, so if these people had read all this fucking philosophy, what would they be coming out with? And so there's a really nice blend between that and then the lyrics that Damo pumps out, which are just, like, as I say, he's kind of the creative director, so there's sort of this raw emotion that fits vaguely within the overall overarching sort of themes.
Yeah.
I don't know, did any of that even make sense? You have to edit this out, sorry.
Oh, man, that was probably one of the best answers I've had to something like that. That was cool.
Oh, cool.
You guys ended up mixed most of it yourself as well, so how difficult is it to sort of separate yourself from your own material when you're going through and mixing it objectively?
It does mean yeah, sorry, you go, Damo.
Very hard. Well, the first couple of songs we started creating on this double album were just in the middle of, the pandemic broke, I think. Then we were locked down again, and I had all the gear, so I was recording guitars and whatnot, and real lesson in fucking what to do and what not to do, you know. So I'll hand it over to Rich for the rest of that.
Well said, mate.
Well, I think it was no, perfectly. I guess it was, for me it was like I used to wonder why people got so precious in the studio stuff, but now I understand in 1983 why the Dio Sabbath broke up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, it needs a little bit more kick drum because I played the fucking thing. You know what I mean? So it was really difficult from that sense, you know.
How could Ronnie reach the desk to do such malice?
On a step up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we think. We used to have this saying, like, where, like Ronnie needed something. He used to say to Tony, "Hey, Ronnie, what's up?" You know, like, look, it was really hard, Kris, to be honest. It was because you do get so familiar with the songs and yet not familiar with the process. So it's like, oh, this is a really important lyric. Why is he playing a fucking shred break all over it? You know what I mean? So I'd be sending text messages going, oh, I think I just need to pull that down a bit and blah, blah, blah. But,
because you're by yourself mixing it all recording it, and there's no one there slapping you on the back of the neck going, don't do that, until you've done it. So we kind of had to reconstruct here and there, but it was interesting. It's going to be weird being in the same room to do it again.
That's right. Well, it goes to show the importance of Dave Byrne, like, who's just he's got like some kind of wiring in his brain. I don't know if he's worked to perfect the art or if he's just got the wiring that way, but he was able to do, or he explained a lot more to me, at least, or for me and Damo, in the mixing process, yes, but also what can be done at the mastering stage. And I was super ignorant of that. I was thought, squash the cunt, put it out, pardon me, squash him, squash it, pump it out, like just as loud as you can get it, and off you go. But what he did with the whole mastering absolutely blew my mind. It was like another stage of mixing and then other stuff as well. So but the short version to your original question is, we found it difficult, but I think we're getting better because you start to learn. Okay, doesn't the old loudness wars doesn't mean everything needs to come up or down. It's like, well, what do we pull here and what do we pull there? And even coming back to Damo's cousin Curbs gave us some great tips in that it's psychological as much for the listener. So it doesn't have to be empirically, objectively, scientifically. All the graphs are on the screen in front of you. It just needs to give a suggestion to the listener, and the listener will fill in the gaps. So if you drop the rhythm to make room for a lead guitar, the listener knows that the rhythm's going on. You know what I mean? So you don't have to sort of, be so precious. And another big influence, sorry, mate, I'm rambling. Another big influence was some of these, particularly Saxon and Tigers of Pantang did this from the Nwabum era. They would just drop out. Like, so, if Damo's stage right and I'm stage left, like on the album, if Damo does a lead break, they just drop out the rhythm on the right-hand side and just smash you with the lead break, It's like, that's sick, man, And Iron Maiden and Priest sort of nuanced that a bit. They weren't quite as blunt, probably because they had more of the moolah to throw around the studio. But, so little things like that too. Like, it's nice to have that, to hark back to, the old days, the old indie days and stuff,
Very cool. And the album was being released to celebrate the 2023 Southern Hemisphere Samhain. So tell us what that is and what significance releasing the album on that date has.
Awesome. Well, for a start, perfect transparency, it was just a useful date to choose because it aligned with everything that we needed. And we're like, okay, we need a date. We need something that's going to be definitely, everything's good by then because we've got the CD printed. We've already sent out a few of the advanced copies. We're sending out the pre-orders now. So the interesting thing about that for us, so my, I don't know what to call her, well, wife, we're legally married, so wife would do. She's Irish, so Samhain, so I worked out for a start, Samhain is pronounced Samhain. So it's an old Celtic tradition. So Samhain's basically, it's like we've had the, you get your big solstices, you get your summer and winter solstice. We've always done a lot around those solstices. So like Damo and I, even when we were in the old Stoner band, we were still doing what we call Mid-Winterblot, which is an old Bathory song, We were always catching up saying, midwinter, it's usually around June 20, celebrate the dark, celebrate the coming of the light. It's a whole new year. And that's really what the solar new year is. And what we've done is roll that around because, there are two schools of thought. To me, though, it doesn't make sense to be celebrating like a harvest, an autumn harvest tradition, which is Samhain, which Halloween, all those sorts of things, in the Southern Hemisphere, like in November, because in November you're still planting the fucking broad beans. You're not harvesting them. Do you know what I mean? Like, now is the time for those of you out there growing veggies, in your various climates throughout Australia. The Southern Hemisphere revolves around the seasons. It all comes back to the seasons, and that's what that stuff is. So tying back to those lyrical ideas you're asking before about PhD, about connection, etc., there is something. We are part of the earth. We treat the earth very badly, like it's the only one we've got. Like the idea that, but we can colonize Mars. Let's go. We'll go up there and fuck that up too, no doubt. So it's more about, okay, this is what we've got here. And this is why we're so strongly, Damo's done an amazing film clip for the title track. Title track video clip will come out when I get around to doing it, which will be in the next 72 hours. And it's very much about, without wanting to be too sort of country living white boys, it's a real nod to Indigenous culture and the Indigenous knowledge and the custodianship of land that's held here already. Thousands and thousands of years. I had an interesting conversation at Caravan Park with an old fella from the Mallee, and he wasn't coming around to what I was saying, but he was, because he didn't realise he was trying to tell me, the modern day calendar's no good, this, that, something else. I said, well, we know that, mate. We've got people that live here who've been telling us that for however long.
Exactly.
We've got Indigenous calendars that map it all out. So to me, it's really interesting that those Northern Hemisphere pagan old traditions map very nicely, because you know what? It's got nothing to do with the names and titles. It's got to do with looking around you and understanding what's going on with the weather, what's growing, what's not growing, what's happening, what's getting warm, what's getting cold. So that's why we're releasing the album this weekend. Good on you.
Yeah, cool. All right, and what's next for Wilderness after this comes out, guys? What do we got planned?
Geez, we haven't really thought about that in locking anything in. We've got
demos.
Yeah, we got demos. We got stuff in the background. Always got stuff in the background. The riff factory, or we'll jot down a riff, or I'll send a riff to him, or whatever. Yeah, and we kind of bounce off that. Sometimes we get together in the same room and do it. Yeah, so we're always thinking, we don't try and force anything on pressure. It's because we got lives to live outside of this, because we're making millions of dollars. Yeah. So it's we take a leisurely approach to it, I guess you could say, because it's therapy at the end of the day for us. We don't want to tarnish it with it being a chore, So we're middle-aged gentlemen who'd like to get in bed before 10 o'clock.
It's just good. It gets better and better as it goes by, doesn't it?
Late middle age, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I guess the thing for me is like Downriver was the band we had before this, and it was a going concern, Kris. It was probably the closest I've been to a band that if you had the right manager and this, that, and something else, maybe you would have made $50 a week. I don't know. But the thing is, like, it imploded through those kinds of frustrations. We made a vow to each other that life comes first, because we're, what do I always say from Jay and Solomon? We're hetero life mates first, and then like band members after that. It's the old Jay and Solomon Bob joke. But so we connect through music, but it doesn't mean we have to be doing the music. But
no, we're like-minded individuals.
Yeah. So we've toyed with a few ideas. I think some of the stuff that we've spoken about that for me is still high on the priority list is we explored some keys on this album, and I'd like to include that a bit more in the next one. But we've also explored the opportunity to incorporate some other people. We called them the Wilderness Collective on the liner notes for this one. Some other people to add different textures, not so much in the songwriting, but in potentially lyrically. I think, not lyrically, vocally. I think the two of us would be interested to explore having different vocalists on the album to complement what we're doing. And I'll use this opportunity to say we would be playing live this weekend if we could find a drummer, but we can't. So if anyone's out there, it's a good little spruik. So if anyone's out there, we don't care age, creed, kind, type, shape, whatever. We prefer you to have a drum kit in your own car. But well, that's right, exactly. And that's pretty much why we're a recording duo, I think, Damo. Like we've, it's just like, well, we can do it. Just press record, see what happens. So.
By the time it's a lot easier for us to do what we do, what we've done. So, a drummer would be nice, but it's just someone who can put up with us.
That's right. Which, as you're starting to guess, is an issue.
Yeah,
I would say.
It'll be fun.
I would say confidently, I will say there'll be one more Wilderness album. And less confidently, I would say it will potentially probably be pretty experimental. I think we hit a really nice apex with this one. I think the next one is going to be pushing out, testing our own boundaries of stuff. Like people that set aside the time to listen to it are always surprised by how catchy but yet complex the stuff is. And our first album had a lot of prog influence, and I think our next one just might do the same, because so far we've got like 5 3-minute pop songs, which means we'll probably turn them into 3 17-minute weird songs with poppy moments.
You never know. It's the prize wheel of Wilderness. You never know what we're going to do next.
That's right. You're talking to the band who did a full covers album of songs that they had actually written and played with the band.
So, I love it. You sound a lot like a band I know down there called Brothel.
Nice. Well, there you go.
They've got a band called As If that never shows up. They haven't showed up to one gig in their life. They always book themselves headlines at festivals.
That's amazing.
I'll give a shout out to a band I've never seen live. I don't know them. I watched one song on YouTube, thought it was hilarious. But as far as the best Australian band name goes, I'll spell it out. SCARNON. One word. Scarnon.
Scarnon. That's so
brilliant. Anyway.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks very much for your time tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. On the Under the Sky by Wilderness is out April the 30th, and it should be getting reviewed in heavy this weekend or early next week. So get yourself a listen and have a copy, and hopefully we can see you guys with a drummer in the near future.
You might. You never know.
Legend. Thank you. As I said at the start, Kris, thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Independent bands, underground bands, overcasts, you're our bread and butter. We thank you so much. So
thanks, mate.
Really,
welcome, boys. Be pleasure. Hopefully we get to meet one day.